My name is Jim Vieira. I am a stonemason by trade. I studied economics at the University of Massachusetts. My brother and I own a stonemason's business here in Western Mass. And as you see, I am a stonemason, and when I'm not doing stonework, I'm doing stonework. We built stone towers and other structures inspired by around my town and around Western New England, inspired by what I believe are Native American structures. So I'll tell a little story that brought me into this kind of strange, controversial history of ancient America. About 20 years ago, searching the woods for old stone structures and just hiking, we started to find, my brother and I, strange features in the woods made of stone that didn't fit the colonial context. This right here is a serpent wall that has 7 one-ton stones on a 25-foot glacial erratic. And as you'll see, they're joined on vertical planes. These are put in position and the eye is carved. And that doesn't make sense to me that it's a colonial construction. The archaeological prevailing theory is that all the stonework in New England is of colonial construction. And I will show you that, I believe that's in error. What I'll say is the oldest stonework in the Northeast, in the United States actually, occurred in the Northeast beginning 7,500 years ago with the mysterious maritime archaic culture. This is one of the stone burial mounds. A crypt was found underneath this after it was excavated, I believe in the 1970s, of a small child who was entombed in a stone crypt. And the stone mound is 7,500 years old, built by the red paint people. They were a very sophisticated Native American culture who would fish for cod and swordfish out in the cold North Atlantic. And they built standing stones, they built cairns, and stone burial mounds. So in fact, the oldest culture of stone building goes back 7,000 or 8,000 years ago in the Northeast. Now, when we think Native American in the United States, we don't think sophisticated stone builders. But that's also an error. The reality is that the native cultures that existed here, that went back 10,000, 12,000 years ago at least, were very sophisticated. And as you see out in the Southwest, there are places like Chaco Canyon, there are kivas and cliff dwellings that are very sophisticated with astronomical alignments. Right here is Aztec, New Mexico. Very, very sophisticated stonework. And I would say in general, you can't destroy a culture and celebrate it at the same time. So there was a lot of racism, obviously, that occurred when the colonists showed up, and this drive to marginalize the amazing accomplishments of native cultures. So, what sophisticated they were. These places I visited out in the Southwest are just amazing. That's not easy. So anyways, a little known fact is that littered on the hilltops all around the Midwestern states were ancient stone wall structures, defensive positions, hilltop forts, sometimes hundreds of acres. Many of them destroyed now. Thankfully, Squire and Davis in the 1840s for the Smithsonian documented and surveyed many of these sites. But they're truly, truly amazing positions of, high on hilltops. One I visited right here and for the show was the old stone fort, a 50-acre enclosure. And as you'll see all down the Duck River, all the stone was brought to the top of this hill to create this enclosure. And it took several generations to build, which showed this communal effort of native civilizations working together for a common ceremonial goal. And I found it interesting that the summer solstice alignment here was accurate to 0.3 degrees. So very sophisticated astronomical knowledge also. Here's another recreation by a lab of what existed on one of the hilltops in Ohio. And I just find it fascinating that we never heard about this. We hear basically that native cultures were nomadic and disorganized, and it's just not true. And you have things like these stone mounds that were found. In Newark, Ohio in 1823, a 55-foot stone mountain with a 182-foot base. Picture that, 55-foot high stone pyramid was taken apart to build a dam by the colonists, and they found 7 burials when they got to the bottom of it. But that is an amazing feat. Just imagine, the enormity of that. And these are some of the things that we frankly are not well versed in. We don't understand what Native culture was up to, unfortunately. And, people like you and I are trying to piece this story together. You have stone vaults and mounds. And actually, you have a lot of similarities between the megalithic cultures of Europe and what happened construction-wise in the United States. Long passageways of stone with stone crypts in these burial mounds. These are from Smithsonian ethnology reports that I'm showing you. Stoned-in crypts, arched vaults with skeletons in them. This is in Mount Carbon, West Virginia, an 8-mile-long wall of windows that was found up there. It has been destroyed by a coal company, unfortunately, but some still remain. This is a shot of the walls in the 50s with an 8mm camera. So basically, it's not contested that Native Americans built with stone. It's really not celebrated, certainly, but it is contested that in New England that natives built with stone. Here is an old lithograph from Sean Eastman that shows a stone tower that existed. There were stone towers all around the hills in West Virginia. Now we get into New England. This is a dolmen. I've studied this. Hugh has been there too. It's called a natural formation by geologists in the United States, which I take issue with. I examine this, and it certainly looks like a man-made construction to me. And I'm sure you good folks on the other side of the Atlantic are very familiar with the Prolete dolmen and other dolmens that you find all around Europe. In fact, all around the world, in Korea and all the European countries, you find these dolmens, and that are clearly man-made and not contested. Then you get to the United States, and it becomes a kind of strange phenomenon where they're there, they exist, but they're called into question because, for whatever reason, for marginalization's sake, I would say. Here is my friend Katie. I got to give Katie a call soon. Sorry. This is Tripod Rock in New Jersey, and you clearly see that it is a man-made construction. And in fact, it aligns to a solstice alignment of other boulders in the area. Very compelling place. This site is in Vermont, I'm sorry. Larry Harrop from Ceremonial Landscapes went all around New England and photographing these sites. You see how clearly this is lined up. That stick right there is 5 feet tall. And this is a man-made construction, no question about it. And you see on the backside, that is man-made construction. Who is building that and why? I would say most certainly it's Native American construction. Now we have different theories of early Celts and explorers coming over well before Christopher Columbus. I believe that we might have had some diffusionary contact. I don't believe there were massive amounts of Europeans coming over in an early age. I think what we're dealing with is a Native American ceremonial landscape in New England. Now the question is, what is Native American and what is colonial? Because I certainly believe that there is one. There is a culture of native stone construction. This is in Lake Halliburton, Ontario. The last time this was above water was 5,000 years ago. I spoke to the geologist at the Park Service, and he said he went diving with other experts, and there was no question there was an alignment of 7 stones, and this is a man-made construction, and he's mystified how it was, that it was built over 5,000 years ago. Just another compelling piece of information. This is in my neck of the woods at a blueberry farm in Heath, Massachusetts. And once there were 12 standing stones here, and some of them fell, but it is clearly a stone circle. And I believe we all just in the 70s, but it's a very compelling place. So this really undermines the argument right here, this image that there was no stonework in New England. This is in Lockmere, New Hampshire, and a series of stone cairns and walls were built that was outlined in 1823 in a survey. When the colonists first showed up, these walls existed, and they found Native American artifacts within them, including huge maple trees that showed the antiquity of the site. Unfortunately, once again, the site was taken apart to in New Hampshire. But it shows you that stonework existed when the colonists showed up. That was most likely of native construction.